When it comes to Lucas Chevalier, PSG fans are completely split. Some think he's the next big French goalkeeper, others say he's already not good enough. So today, I want to separate facts from noise. What are his real mistakes? Which ones come from him, and which are caused by tactics or the defense in front of him? Because behind the criticism, there's a young keeper with a big talent, but also one learning what it really means to play for Paris Saint-Germain. Let's dive in. All right, so let's talk about Lucas Chevalier. When I started this channel, I swore to myself that I wasn't going to fall into clickbait and that I try to do and make good content about PSG for English speakers and do it from the heart of a supporter as well. And I know the debate that's going on right now. I know what people think. I've seen it in the comments. I know the fan base is very, very split, but I know more and more people each day are ready to lay the blame down on Chevalier. And I think, some of it is fair. Some of it, I think, is a little bit over the top. And I think, as a fan, we can look at our own players with open eyes and kind of discuss their performance and discuss whether they're doing well or not and whether they're good enough or not. But we also want to support them because we're fans of the club and players succeeding is what we need for the club to succeed. So it's not about putting the hammer down on anyone. But at the same time, I don't want to avoid the debate. I don't want to avoid the question. We should be talking about it. And so that's what I want to do here. And so starting with, let's talk about his actual record, because I think that's, pretty telling in a way. And I think, on a daily basis, history gets rewritten a fair bit. And I'll tell you what, I was looking through social media and through YouTube and so on, and French football media today. And already, coming out of the game against Lyon, the two goals that Lyon scored, at the end of the game, people were saying, oh, it's mostly down to the defense, and Chevalier is not perfect for sure, but it's really not for him. And now today, 2-3 days later, people are actually saying the contrary. People are saying oh, those two goals are complete Chevalier mistakes and he did poorly and it's completely his fault. And so, I want to untangle that, unplug it a little bit, and just be a little bit realistic. And so I listed, and you see on the screen, I listed literally every game this season. I went back to look at the highlights and so on, look at the goals that got scored against us, just so I've got a clean view of what he did and what he didn't do. And so, starting with the first game of the season against Tottenham, he makes a mistake on the second goal, but at the same time, he makes a great save on the first goal, and sadly, it goes back to a Tottenham player, so he still get to score, and he makes 2 key stops on the penalty shootout. After this, clean sheet in Nantes, clean sheet in Angers. We go to Toulouse. He's a little bit slow on the third goal. I'm writing it down. It's not a huge mistake, but it's there. But we're already it's the 95th minute and we're winning 6-2. So it's not I'm not expecting him to be at peak concentration there. We go on to Lens, clean sheet, Atalanta, clean sheet, and then on to probably the biggest mistakes that we've seen from him, which is in Marseille. And that's really poor aerial outings that he makes, which leads to the own goal from Marquinhos, where he completely misjudges the trajectory of the ball. So this one, clear mistake from him. Go on to Auxerre, clean sheet. Barcelona is a little bit cagey in some places, but there's no direct mistakes. There's no fault of him on the goal. And honestly, on balance, it's an okay game for sure. After that, we have Lille, where he's got a clearly slow reaction on Mbappe's goal. Some say Beraldo was covering his view a little bit, and so it's not as obvious. But I think there's some mistakes there. Strasbourg, it's another one that's funny because I was reading stuff today that oh, Strasbourg, there's stuff which is completely his fault, and so I actually went back to the highlights. I don't remember that, and yeah, he does a brilliant double save early on when like there's a flick of the heel by Panicelli, and then another shot just after, like both of them from inside or like 6 meter area. And he does like two reflex like stop back to back, really great. But yes, on the second goal from Strasbourg, which is a shot from Morera, it ends up being a slow shot, and his reaction is really like slow, and I don't like, yeah, that's a mistake there. First goal though, unstoppable header, like not much he could do on this one. Third one is a 1v1. You can always hope for a miracle, but it's not crazy that he gets a goal scored on that. Then Leverkusen, he concedes 2 goals, one on the penalty. Hard to say like he can do anything about this, and the other one a long range strike, which is like out of this world. So also hard to pin that one on him. On both, because there's 2 penalties in this game. The first one he hits the post, but on the 2 penalty he goes the right way. So that's really all you can ask a keeper on this thing. Brest clean sheet, Lorient no major mistake. I don't see. I think the goal is more for the defense and the midfielders, honestly. Nice is a clean sheet. Bayern Munich, no big errors in this game. He actually makes a good save on the first goal, that first shot from Olise, and like it comes back to Diaz, who scores. So not a lot he can do on that. And he also has a solid stop on a Kane's shot at the end of the first half. So hard to pin anything on him on Bayern Munich. You would have wanted like a crazy save and a miracle on the second goal, but it's hard to say it's his fault or anything. And then Lyon, he concedes 2 goals. I think the first one, is slightly uncertain coming off of his line. I think like he hesitates a little bit and his timing isn't completely right. On the second one, not much he can do about it, honestly. Like the ball over him is just inch perfect. So like that's kind of the way it is. But we'll actually like go into a bit more details in terms of the responsibilities on this one. Because for me, it's like hard to pin it on him, honestly. So in the end, yes, there are some mistakes, but I hear people saying like, oh, he's costing us a lot of points or he's costing us games and so on. Apart from Marseille, really like a bit hard to make that case, honestly, because like in some cases there's mistakes, but like there's also a few good saves and a few good stuff. He's got a great record on penalty, actually, which was kind of unexpected and good. And like his passing and distribution, I think like it's a little bit less good in the last couple of games, so Bayern and Lyon. But it's still way better than what we used to get from Donnarumma, honestly. So like there's quality as well. What can be explained, and I think that's where it gets interesting, and especially for those Lyon goals. I'm gonna put this on screen. There was an interview yesterday of a guy called Thierry Barnerat. And if you do not know him, he's a goalkeeper coach of Thibaut Courtois of Real Madrid. And he's been working with Courtois for years and years and years. So he's a guy who, he knows what he's talking about when he's talking about goalkeepers. And the quotes that he gives, I think it's quite interesting, and there's a lot to it. So I wanted to share it. He says those 2 goals are identical because he has to follow Luis Enrique's tactical instructions, staying behind his defensive block, very close to limit space. But you can't coach a goalkeeper that way, because in defensive situations, a keeper always has to defend the goal. If we talked about Lucas Chevalier's general level and what he's shown so far, it's clear he hasn't reached 100% of what he can do. On those 2 goals, it's Luis Enrique's tactical setup that puts the goalkeeper in a tough spot. And I think it's an interesting bit of debate, because I do think more than Luis Enrique, I think like a lot of those 2 goals is done to the defense, and the fact that we don't have our usual fullbacks playing, and usually it would be either Hakimi on the first goal or Nuno Mendes on the second goal that would track the run of the wingers and might catch them up if need be, thanks to their speed, would be able to catch them up before they're in a position to shoot and score. And it's right that in this game, And oftentimes, our line of defense plays very, very, very high on the pitch. Like for the 2 goals against Lyon, our central defense is literally in the middle of the pitch, on the line on the middle of the pitch. And so it leaves half of the pitch just for the goalkeeper to defend. And if a player is smart, if the passing is good, if it comes in the right place in the right timing, it's next to impossible to defend on their own. And like our central defenders on that game, which were Zabarni and Pacho, and then on the wings we had Hernandez on the left and Warren Zaire-Emery on the right. All of those players, they're not the fastest, and so if a player goes behind them, they're gonna have a hard time tracking them back. And I think the second goal, there's a lob, and the Lyon player does really well, Maitland-Niles. But the first goal, Morera, he makes a great run, he's fast enough, and Lucas Chevalier ends up being caught in no man's land in the middle. And yeah, it's not great of him because you want him to be more aggressive off of his line and closing the angle, especially at the near post. So there is stuff to talk about, but it's hard to make that a glaring mistake that's completely on him. And I think in some cases. Some of the mistakes that are put on him, there's fault on him, but it's not as clear cut, and it's not it doesn't. It's not something that you can always look at in a very black and white kind of situation. I think there's mistakes. I think for me, the ones which are most troubling are the one against Lille and the one against Strasbourg, where he has a slow reaction time to relatively slow shots. And so those, he needs to improve on that. The rest of it, honestly, hard to, Tottenham falls in that category as well with Lille and Strasbourg. But the goal against Lyon, he could do better, but honestly, it's not as big a mistakes as the others. And at the same time, it's we kind of knew what we were signing. We knew we were signing a young goalkeeper with tons of potential, but it wasn't completely there. And I think I went back actually and I looked at some highlights from his what he did last season with Lille, both the goals that were scored on him and the ones that he saves. And true enough, the few cases where he had to come off his line because an attacker found his way behind the Lille defense, it's situation where he was regularly in trouble. And so, you can go back and see it. It didn't happen that often, so it didn't make headlines when Chevalier signed. But I would imagine, professional Luis Campos and Luis Enrique, they would have been aware of that. And I think for us, given the way we play, obviously it's going to be a bigger issue and something that he's going to have to work to fix. So yeah, I think in the end, what's really surprising to me, is that where he was really strong against Lille was making reflex saves on his line. And there's a few times actually, where we've seen him and he actually made a few great saves here and there. I quoted Strasbourg, but I think there's one against Toulouse, there's one against Tottenham as well. So there's been a few times where he has, shot saves on his line, which are, really fast reflexes and well done. And I think that was his strength with Lille last season, and so that's why it's a bit weird to me that he makes the mistakes that he makes in terms of speed of reaction against Strasbourg, against Lille, and so on. So we'll see, but it's in lots of cases I find it not as clear cut. What I'm finding where I'm getting a bit worried, honestly, I'll be very blunt, is that the pressure is ramping up, and I think candidly, the PSG environment is a difficult one. We all have our responsibility on this. The fan base expects nothing less than perfection, and is very fast to come down on a player that doesn't deliver. There's a lot of media attention around it. It's obviously the big club in France. It's the champion of Europe. Chevalier came in replacing a goalkeeper who had an amazing last 6 months. which really contributed to winning us the Champions League. And so the shoes that he has to fill and the spotlight that he's under are really, really, really big for a kid from the north of France who was still living with his parents before moving to Paris. And so, like, I can definitely understand that it would take some time for him to settle down. And another way in which you see it is that he actually went through some social media controversy just before the Lyon game, which made big headlines in France. Essentially, what happened is that on Instagram, he liked a video which was political in nature, and essentially, like, a politician, like, I'm gonna make it short. So, like, if you know the story, it's actually more complex than this. But in a nutshell, it's like he liked a post that was defending a far-right party. And so all of a sudden, everyone is saying you're a racist and fascist and so on. It happened literally the afternoon before the Lyon game. So there is a little bit of he's unsettled during that game, and maybe part of it is due to that. Because the night after the Lyon game, so Sunday night, early Monday morning, he actually posted something on his Instagram, which is clearly coming from him, because the post has like tons of mistakes and like spelling and so on, in which he says like, yeah, like the controversy, people are trying to paint me as a fascist, but if you know me and you ask the people who know me, they will tell you I'm not like this, and my parents have raised me well, and you know I didn't realize I was liking or I liked by mistake, and it's not who I am and so on. And you know, people who are criticizing me on this are the same people who are criticizing me on my games, and they don't know anything about being goalkeeper. So he went on, and like in the end, didn't really solve the problem in any way. In fact, like, yeah, it's just like he should like he would have been better served by just not answering it and staying quiet, or letting like professional handle it for him. In this case, the club, like, you know, takes him at his word, and you know, like there hasn't been anyone who came out to say that he's a bad guy or has like bad opinions or anything like this. So we'll have to take him at face value. And you know, in the end, like, political opinions are political opinions, and players are entitled to think whatever they want to think, even if like you disagree with it and I disagree with it. But I think in the end, what it's saying is that, yeah, the fact that it blew out of proportion so quickly and it got to him and he had to answer it in the middle of the night, it really tells you something about the sort of pressure he's under and the fact that it's starting to get to him. And I think one of the things that I really liked is that after the first few mistakes that he made, he didn't really overreact to it. He took it in the teeth. I made a mistake. I shake it off. I'll come back and like do better next game. And I think, you know, the last few games, it felt like he was getting out of the hole and doing a little bit better, if I'm honest. And like the Lyon game really put a dent in that. So yeah, so this is where we are, and then the question is what comes next. And you know, I'll go back to what Thierry Barnerat was saying. He's saying in that game against Lyon, you can see it in his body language. He didn't look grounded. It's the first time I've seen him like that. You can tell he's not emotionally stable. He doesn't have that anchoring yet. And so that one is a question mark, because like part of it could be down to that Instagram story and controversy and so on, which might be weighing on his mind. But it's true, and I thought the same thing during the game against Lyon, which is you can see that he's shaky. Like when he tries to come off his line to get the ball on corners or crosses, he's like, there's a few times where he's not on the right timing. He's not appreciating the trajectory right. So there's mistakes there, like tiny signs that is not entirely there. And you know, we'll have to see if this was just the Lyon thing because the controversy, because a big game in a hostile stadium, all of a sudden it's a lot of pressure, or if it's a deeper problem. And then the other quote that came in today which is actually interesting. And like from Kylian Mbappé, who's the captain of the French team, and so he went into a press conference today, and he said, "I think he just needs to understand what club he's in. That the level of expectation here is higher than at Lille, with all due respect to Lille. But I believe he'll adapt. His clubs trust him. His coach and his teammates do too. It's up to him now to gradually settle in. I'm not worried about him, but PSG is a step above, and it's normal to face some difficulties. I think he'll come through it, and I believe he has the qualities to do so." Which is kind of nice from Mbappé. I mean, it's very like politically correct, I guess, kind of quote. But there's a truth to it, in the sense of, yes, it is a big step up from Lille, and yes, it's going to take him some time to actually like settle down and grow into the jersey of the goalkeeper of PSG. He does have qualities, and we have seen them in places. He needs to work right now. He needs to like keep his head down, work, make less mistake, kind of send down like the rougher edges of his game. He's got like, at the end, he's got a year to do so, because like we're not going to change goalkeepers in the January window. First, like the good goalkeepers are not going to be on the market, and like Luis Enrique and Luis Campos wanted Chevalier, so they're not going to like give up on him after 4 months. So he's got the full season. I don't see like any way that's not going to be the case. And so he's got a bit of time ahead of him to just like show that he can improve, show that he can make it. He's in a really hard situation, because I think when you're in Paris and you're a PSG player and you're a goalkeeper in PSG, I can tell you, because I've seen it happen a few times, once the pressure starts ramping up, it's very, very, very hard to have it come back down. And people who are saying he's horrible and we should just like change and go for someone else, they're not going to change their mind unless he does something like incredibly impressive. And Donnarumma, for all of his fault, 6 months ago, now like 9 months ago, people were ready to toss him out, and people were saying like he's not the goalkeeper that's going to get us the Champions League. And look what happened. So this is the kind of turnaround that we're going to need, and it's a tall order. So we'll have to see. He's got the trust of his coach for now. I think the players, they're like starting to be a bit more iffy, and you can see like the communication with his defense, it's looking a little difficult. Like there's signs like this. So we'll have to see how it evolves, but right now he's here to stay. And so that's also why I didn't want to do the whole video jumping up and down on him. I'm not doing clickbait. If that's what you were expecting, I'm sorry for this. And yeah, like I see the mistakes. I still hope he succeeds, because I do think he's got the talent for it. And so anyway, like this is what I had for you guys on the Chevalier case. I'm going to close it here for now. I'm sure we'll be talking about it again. For now, if you've made it this far, please drop a like on this video. Let me know in the comment what you think and, where you land. Is he like a young talent who needs to be given time and space to grow and develop? Is he like already shown that he's never going to be good enough for PSG? Where do you land on this debate, which seems to be all about very, very strong opinions on either side? And yeah, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the bell to get notified on future videos. And don't forget, ici c'est Paris!